If you clicked on this video and you don't know anything about Fallout the Frontier, I would recommend watching Remy's video on the subject before coming back to this one, as I assume a basic knowledge of the subject in this video. With that out of the way, let's get started. With developers pointing fingers at each other over who's to blame for this disaster, it can be easy to see any attempt to assign blame for Fallout the Frontier onto one factor as an attempt to defend members of the mod, or simplify the issue. Instead, it has become popular to state that the mod received so much blowback as a result of many issues, mainly due to the lack of creative direction resulting in many problematic things making their way into their mod. I would say that the real reason nobody has been able to find one reason for this mod's failure is that they're asking the wrong question. People are trying to figure out what went wrong specifically, instead of asking themselves, why hasn't this happened before? When fans saw statements such as, "This is what the Fallout community deserves," many dismissed this as an ignorant expression of anger, but in reality there might be some merit to these statements. The truth is that the issues pressed in criticism of Fallout the Frontier have been present in Fallout modding for years, and assuming people agree that things like implied sexual enslavement of minors would be a major issue in modded content, there are mods that have done worse than the Frontier. Fallout New California is one of the few mods that can really be compared directly to Fallout the Frontier. It was a large project with a similarly sized development team, and was heavily anticipated within the modding and Fallout communities for years. The mod begins in a vault, and while a male character is notably capable of flirting with all female followers present at this point in the game, of which there are 3, I would not mark this down as massively creepy or inappropriate, as a large part of the mod's setup is letting the player decide between being a nerd or jock stereotype within the vault. Still, take that as you will when comparing to the sexualized writing of the Frontier. The thing that really made this mod stand out as far as creepiness goes is the Raider storyline. This quest chain is triggered by getting captured by raiders after escaping the vault, and despite being technically avoidable, it is not an optional quest for those who start it. The player is forcibly captured by raiders should they attempt to negotiate with them, and taken as a slave along with their companions. After arriving at the raider camp, it is revealed to the player that in order to save themselves and their friends from slavery, they must sell their companions to a man who plans on using them for breeding. If that sounds bad, just wait till you hear this. After the player rescues their companions from slavery, it is revealed that they have been violated by their captors, expressing difficulty walking after the experience, among other things. It is important to know that these characters are high school students, by the way. The mod also allows for the player to participate in the genocide of their own vault, with residents only being allowed to live should they be deemed acceptable for breeding, as the mod puts it. This is one of New Vegas' most popular mods. Right now, you might be asking yourself, how widespread is this in New Vegas modding? Other New Vegas mods seem to avoid troubling issues like this in story writing. It is of note that the most popular mods for Fallout New Vegas are typically made by individuals, such as Some Guy 2000's mods. Therefore, we must look to other games as we attempt to diagnose the issues with these mods. Hearts of Iron 4 is also a popular game for modding, and touches upon sensitive subjects. One mod even sets itself within the setting of the Fallout universe. This is the Old World Blues mod for Hearts of Iron 4, for which the devs were willing to speak to me about their opinions on the controversy surrounding the Frontier.
I am Happy NTH. I am one of the senior developers at Old World Blues, and amongst my responsibilities at the mod, I am broadly responsible for running the public server, and I do obviously lots of other back-end stuff as part of the mod team.
If this sort of situation were to happen to the Old World Blues dev team, where one of the devs, was exposed as having, inappropriate behavior or doing something just unforgivable, right? Where you could not associate with them anymore. What do you think would happen with that dev, and what would be the mod's game plan going forward from that?
I think Old World Blues is in quite a privileged position in how we structure our mod, and how we work as a team. In that all our work is very communal. We all work together, we're all involved in what each other are doing, which does mean that if some of these accusations were leveled against someone on our team and could be substantiated, obviously, then we would be able to remove their content from the team because obviously, if substantiated, we wouldn't want to associate with someone who had done something like this.
Do you think that the modding community will change because of this in any large way? Do you think that people will be more careful in the future about things like vetting or, inappropriate content?
I would certainly hope so, especially regarding inappropriate content. We at the Old World Blues team and in the public server especially, we do our best to run a really tight ship when it comes to, I mean, obviously when it comes to things like alleged pedophilia, but at the Old World Blues server, we take it a step further regarding politics as a whole, just because we find that distancing ourselves and our team and our community from lots of modern day political discussions um, really helps build um, a close knit and well rounded community that is able to stay out of lots of, quite toxic drama. There was a particular article, I forget which website published it, about the links between hoi4 and some particularly far right ideology
Right.
um, on the topic, and with reference to a question you asked earlier about vetting. Um, I I just know from my experience running the Old World Blues team, or at least being broadly in charge of people coming and going. Um, it is quite difficult to vet people on the internet. It's not like you're employing for a job. Obviously, everyone who works on the Old World Blues team, at least, is completely voluntary. We don't get paid an hourly wage, obviously. We do it for a fun. Um, and it's not like I can go search up someone's name on Facebook or on Twitter or in the internet more generally and vet them that way. Um, so it is difficult to do that vetting, um, and I'm not entirely sure, obviously, what kind of vetting they did. But just with regards to that vetting, I don't think saying it was entirely a vetting problem would be entirely fair.
Happy NTH refers to the popularity of radical political views among the Hearts of Iron community, which has caused problems for other mods in the past. Mods such as The New Order, Last Days of Europe. This mod covers some pretty sensitive topics, depicting a world overrun by fascism after an Axis victory in World War II. These radical politics in the community led to the mod having a crisis of direction in 2018 during development, where a group of fascists parading around as Francoists published a manifesto in which they explained that they would be leaking the mod out of protest to the lead dev, Pink Panzer, and his liberal views and no-tolerance policy towards fascist ideology. I would say this is a case where we judge a man by the enemy he makes. Panzer cracked down hard on the mod team after this, purging the mod of all devs he felt he could not personally vouch for, and only allowed for devs to return through a rigorous application process. This did not make Panzer popular, but it did eliminate radicalism from a mod based in a community often accused of harboring far-right discussion and otherwise evil groups. This is why Hearts of Iron mods are often careful, because they know the dangers of letting the wrong people into their staff from experience of their community. But back to our main topic. Why did Fall at the Frontier blow up and not New California?
I'm Shudderfly. I'm one of the senior devs in Old World Blues. I'm currently on a hiatus, but some of the stuff I've done is focus tree coding for stuff like Free Fighters and Flaylock. I did that in conjunction with some other devs. And as of now, and this will date the interview, I'm sorry, but as of now, the most recent thing I've done was the TAA focus tree, which is entirely my own invention with the art being done by Soviet Cyber. Did an excellent job with it. But that's, yeah, I'm a localization writer, so I do writing, and I'm a focus coder, so I code focus trees.
So if you were to say, like, if you were a doctor, right, and you were
Uh-huh.
diagnosing this mod, like this mod's development and trying to figure out exactly where it went wrong, do you think that it's the vetting process, or do you think it's like the content itself, like the character America?
I think I think I would diagnose this mod with a chronic lack of oversight. Um, really with the vetting stuff again, there's only so far you can go, and the truth of it is even if you don't vet people that well, they might do some weird shit on the side, but that's fine as long as you can corral them in and make sure they don't add any kind of that stuff to the actual product. Okay.
Right.
Um, you can be a little fast and loose with the vetting, and it's a mod, so it's not going to be you're not going to be checking them out like the FBI would for a job or something like that. But you need to have an oversight on the kind of stuff that goes in. Comments that are kind of indicative of foot fetishism or this kind of enslaving a barely legal girl. It's
Yeah.
so weird. Death claw sex, lizard people, that kind of stuff doesn't just come from poor vetting. That comes from, they're on the mod team, and you can actually vet people pretty well, but they can still do weird shit. That comes from they've gotten onto the mod team, no matter how well they were vetted, and there is just not enough oversight to the kind of stuff they're making. The way we run things is there's not like a head dev who's in charge of everybody, but we kind of get together and we kind of decide a general path we want to go in, general kind of broad stroke kind of stuff we want to do, and we get cracking. And we usually run stuff by people, especially if we want to do something weird. We'll run it by somebody else, right? And more often than not, we don't have anything, even a quarter as egregious as some of the stuff that got in there. But it really seems like people were left too much to their own devices. They were left too alone to inject maybe something a little bit too personal, a little bit too sexually charged into the mod.
Have you ever played Fallout New California?
Yeah, I played it. Every time they would release a major update to it, back when it was called Project Brazil, I would
Yeah.
play that. And I played a good number of hours for it when it came out as Fallout New California, when it got fully released. I thought it was pretty good. There was some stuff in it that I thought maybe didn't fit Fallout so well, but I thought it was competently done. I thought it was an interesting look at California in a first person kind of perspective, that in third person, I guess, but not like top down. You know what I mean? That was a good. It was really well directed. It looked. As far as landscapes and locations and factions went, it looked pretty darn good.
If you were aware that when captured by the raiders in Fallout New California, as a good character, it's recommended that you sell your friends into sex slavery. Would that change your mind on the mod?
Yeah, that seems a little bit distasteful. It seems unnecessary, I would say. I feel like if I was to write that same situation where it needs to, if I wanted to write a story where to to kind of escape a snare trap, you have to make a bad kind of sacrifice, but you can double back and save your buddies. I think, if you want to do something like slavery, which is something in the Fallout universe, you have like Paradise Falls and all that. I think it would have been better if it was just regular slavery. I think it's kind of unnecessary to have a sexual connotation to it, if that makes sense. If you really want to write a story where I've got to let my friends get captured, so I can save myself, so I can go back and get them. That's a fine series of events narratively, but it's a little weird. I would say that there's a sexual connotation to it. I think it's unnecessary for what you want to achieve by a story beat like that.
It's also of note that all of these characters are teenagers in this mod.
Now that is extra bad. Really not good to have underage sex slavery in a mod. Um, I'm not saying it's something that wouldn't happen in Fallout, but it's not really something that you really need to do for the story New California was going for. I don't remember that being something that had. I don't remember it being something that I think would have been necessary for New California's story. Um,
Right.
yeah, it's just the unnecessary sexual element to it. I think is what makes it weird.
Yeah.
In terms of how that affects my opinion in the mod overall, I still think it's a pretty good mod. I still think it's pretty well done. But every face seems to have some zits on it, and you really have to try hard to kind of cut down on that kind of stuff, because there will be some people who look at that moment, which is kind of distasteful, and it's definitely unnecessary. and they'll say, well, you know what, I am not a fan of the whole mod because of that. I think there's really, really important wisdom to be discerned from the way they've handled this situation. And when you're making something, it doesn't matter if you're making it for free or if you're making it for money. When you're making something you want an audience to enjoy, do not condescend them. I've seen a lot of this from the dev team. When it comes to talk of the Enclave, when it comes to this quote sticks in my head, is when people are talking about the Enclave path. And these are devs talking about it, as far as I'm aware. Have you seen this clip where it says the Enclave is just a fascist power fantasy? The Enclave are Trump supporters, and then there's that line in the game where the PC says, "Why would I ever want to join a racist, fascist, paramilitary thing?"
That's actually a direct quote from Fallout New Vegas.
Right. Well, that's the thing. That's one thing I'll say as well, is that that's a quote from Arcade Gannon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arcade Gannon is a written, developed character that is staunchly and uncompromisingly written to a certain set of moral values. The player character is not in that way, right? And when you reach out into a player character, it's supposed to be a surrogate of the player, and you put those words as the only available option for them. You're reaching out and you're condescending directly to the player. When you're not giving them any cop out or any option other than, why would I ever want to do such an evil, terrible thing? You're bringing the player out of the game, and you're talking down to them for wanting to make that kind of decision. So that's why it's different when it's Gannon, who's a character, got a staunch set, always going to be the same way, strict set of moral values, and a player character who should have agency and choice and determination when it comes to their own moral principles.
Yeah.
But
I see what
in
you
response to this, the devs have been very condescending, and that is absolutely the wrong way to go about it. You're not going to win any fans over by acting like that. You're going to alienate people. You're going to make them unhappy. You're going to make them not like your mod. So I would definitely say, as a piece of wisdom, do not condescend and browbeat and talk down to your player base. They will not like it.